Hello and welcome to Peaceful Rebellion in the countryside. Well, I'm here with a new drone, so I thought I'd do something different and have a walk through the countryside and talk to you as I walk along. How lovely is that? So something I wanted to talk about today, which is about a question that my son asked me the other night while we were talking, and he said to me, is it true, because he watches lots of videos of stuff about, spiritual stuff, but also scientific stuff and studies. And he said, is it true that people who are not intelligent are happier? So people with a low IQ are happier. I thought it was a really interesting question. And my answer to him was, in my experience, no. I don't think that that's the case. What I can imagine is that people who aren't particularly intellectual or academic wouldn't spend the time looking at things, and so they might be oblivious to what's going on in the world. And so maybe they are in that sense happier because they're not seeing the stuff that other people who would investigate are seeing. And I was thinking about the expression, and it's another 3-word expression, which is ignorance is bliss. And boy, we've been sold that, haven't we? That idea, ignorance is bliss. And I suppose in some regards, it is when you don't know. But I think about since I woke up, what would happen if I didn't know what I knew, if I didn't know, and if I didn't have faith in what I have faith in? And I think I would be very, very upset. I'd be very depressed at the moment, given the state of the world, given what's happening, without understanding what's going on. And so ignorance in that regard wouldn't make me blissful, that's for sure. But I also think that I wonder who made up that expression, ignorance is bliss. And I personally don't think that anything that we use in common parlance is an accident. I don't think it's an accident. And so I think we've been sold that idea that ignorance is bliss, because how much easier is it to say, don't educate yourself? And we've heard people say this. This is what during the pandemic times, this is what they said. Do not do research. Don't do research of your own accord, which was amazing, wasn't it? We were told that, don't research. And, if anybody tried to say anything, the first question everybody was taught to say is, are you a doctor? Excuse me, are you a doctor? In fact, what happened the other day on one of our courses, immersion courses, Cynthia, there was a guy who said that he had an issue, he needed to get sun. And so because he had an issue or whatever. And so Cynthia was talking to him about the vitamin D, and if you take it in a certain way, or if you're going to get sun, that was it. If you get sun, the best way to get sun, the fastest way to get vitamin D into your body is by burying your back. You've got to show your back to the sun. And she's chatting to this guy, and one of the ladies in the class said, but are you a doctor? Okay. And Cynthia said, no, I'm not, but I just know something about this. And this is where they've got us. And the Jehovah's Witnesses used to say exactly the same. They used to have watchtower after watchtower saying, do not do your own research. Trust what the organization is telling you. Exactly the same thing, because I know that the witnesses were a psyop trial for the rest of the world, just to check to see if stuff works. And so I think in many ways they wanted us to be ignorant. They want us to be ignorant because ignorant people are very, very easily manipulated, clearly, because they don't know any better. Why would we? We would just do what we're told. And the very fact that we're all educating ourselves so much, like too much. Quite often my son, when I'm talking to him, he'll say to me, how is it that you know so much about so many things? And I said to him, just because I've spent the last 18 years of my life deep diving, and that's what we've done. I think all of us, we've all been deep diving. We've been doing things that never before in my life had I done what I've done over the last nearly 2 decades of finding out stuff, making myself. I remember I was involved in network marketing. That was a disaster for me. And this guy said, he was giving a talk and he said, I don't listen to the news. I don't read newspapers. I just read enough so I'm not stupid. That's what he said. I read enough to make sure I'm not stupid. And I think that's what we do. We certainly, like most people who are awake are fully aware of what's happening in the world. We keep ourselves really up to date with current affairs. But what we don't do is we don't use those channels as our only source of information. And so we understand what's going on in the world, and then we also are able to analyze it and understand it and read what's behind it and read, the psyop that's behind it, which is basically everything that's in the media is just a psyop, intentionally trying to get us to believe something or to not believe something. That's basically it. So ignorance is not bliss. Would I like to go back to not knowing what I know now? No way, man. You've got to be joking. I'm so much more equipped now to handle what happens in the world. So much more equipped. And I think that goes without saying for everybody. We all know far more what our rights are. We all know what we would allow, what we wouldn't allow. We know when to put the brake on and say, no, I don't consent to that. Oh, I think we're in a miles better place. And if we hadn't, we would just be locked in the world that those people who are still asleep are locked into. The world of, the government must know best. Just let the government manage us, this parent state that they've developed. And of course, we are unruly children, and we won't allow them, which must be very frustrating for them, the bastards. Good for them that it happened. Good for them that they weren't able to get away with their horrible plan. Because I think it could have been a damn sight worse than what it is, eh? I think it would have been a damn sight worse. They often say if Hillary Clinton had got in, holy shit, what the world would have been like now. I think it would have accelerated. So I think, educate yourself well. 3 words. Educate yourself well. And I'm not talking about academia. I'm talking about the real world. Find out what the shit that's going on and understand it. Well, there you are. I finished my walk through the countryside with my drone. I'm going to call it in now. Come to me, drone. Come, you little beauty. I love you all, and I'll speak to you all later. Bye-bye.